Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. Less than a week from the election. This will be the first segment of the reports today, the Ken Matthews Report. It's normally several segments always during the week. We do a report every day, 7 days a week, at least one segment. And if there's a lot of stuff going on, sometimes the report is, it's over an hour. And then sometimes I'll segment it so you can download little bits and pieces of it and understand that you can download. This is a great feature on subscribestar.com. So when we first launched this just over 3 months ago, we had to adjust for that because people want to download the Ken Matthews Report, maybe take it to work, listen to it on another not on another platform, but you know what I mean, on another device. It's obviously because it's subscription, but you do now have the freedom as subscribers to the Ken Matthews Report on subscribestar.com/Ken Matthews to download it, listen to it wherever you want, on your phone, on your pad, on your pod, whatever. If you live on a pod or if you live in a pod, you can listen to it wherever. So thank you for that. This is going to be a short segment. I wanted to comment on Joe Biden, the man who thinks he's president, last night with that horrifically divisive and angry speech he gave, and that a lot of the networks ran. And it was such a divisive political speech. And it was designed to attach more stigma to questioning elections, which is our right, our constitutional right. So because last night I was watching it, I don't know if this happens with you, but when I listen to Joe Biden, I either want to scream at the top of my lungs or vomit. Does that happen to you with Joe Biden? It's one of the two. So, and I don't want to put myself in that position today because I have a couple more segments to do, and I'm really in a good mood, and we like to have fun getting to the truth. So instead, what I'm going to do is just put together this little thing, and then you can decide. But the argument has been, if you question the election, you're divisive, you're treasonous, you're violent, you're undermining democracy. If you question the voting machine companies, in addition to getting your ass sued into the Stone Age, you're also undermining democracy. That's been the theme, right? And then the theme has been that just MAGA people go around and do it. Like Corn Pop said last night when he wasn't drooling. I don't know what medication Joe Biden was on last night, but he actually got through the speech. But it's the same old stuff, you know. I love it when he says, we're the United States. And then he divides us all. We need to work together to target all the MAGA people and to mock all the candidates that question the election or the machinery or the methodology of our election if it was transparent or safe. Okay, see what's happening? Because I'm not going to throw up, but it's usually screaming, which I don't like to do. I don't do much anymore. And then the throwing up, it's tough to listen to Joe Biden, a pathological liar who should be in jail along with his son and maybe other members of his family. We don't know yet. It's tough. And then he's going around, and they're playing the presidential music. It's tough. So let's get right into it. So the premise for the last several weeks to get America ginned up, jacked up, and even angrier than the Democrat. It's hard to believe Democrats can be angrier or more bitter, especially the woke white female Democrats. Holy moly. But anyway, so the premise is we'll keep linking everything to January 6th, and we'll keep linking that to people who are, quote, election deniers, which is the buzzword. And they've almost got those of us that are questioning the validity and the legality and, of course, the transparency of the 2020 election. They've almost got us labeled as terrorists, but not quite. Well, the white males that are doing it are definitely in the terrorist category, because that's what the FBI does right now, because they work for Biden. They don't work for us. But that's what they're trying to do. So without further ado, let me jump over. Wow, that was too long of an intro. But you know what? That's the beauty of not having commercial breaks all throughout your show. You know those commercial breaks that say, brought to you by Pfizer. Make sure you get the Pfizer injection for your 4-year-old. Right? Yeah, we're going to do that in the next segment. Yeah. Okay, but let's get back to Joe Biden's speech last night, which I'm not going to replay because, again, I don't want to vomit or scream, but I do want to play just a whole bunch of Democrats saying things that this week they would be, if these Democrats were saying it this week and they were not Democrats, they'd be deplatformed, they'd be targeted, they'd be maligned, they'd be censored, they'd be banned, they'd be libeled, they'd be defamed. Okay? But you know it's a different thing with Democrats. All right. Let's roll it. Here we go. These are all Democrats.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
You know, the interesting thing about this is this is a rare moment, but I would imagine millions of Americans in a rare moment would agree with these Democrats. Some of you have heard this, some of you haven't.
The biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates cybersecurity 101.
See, now, if you're a conservative and you say that, what Senator Ron Wyden just said from Oregon, if you're a conservative and you say that, they're coming after you. They might even sue your network.
Directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
These voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are...
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say, Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota, that you can easily hack into voting machines? Wait a minute, because when Mike Lindell said that, they sued Mike Lindell. How does it work? See, this is the problem. How does all this stuff work? How does it work? So all these Democrats can say all these things, right? But the rest of America can't. It's very confusing, isn't it?
Are doing different things, but in fact 3 companies are controlling that.
It is the individual voting machines that pose some of the greatest risks. There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into the electronic vote.
Wait a minute, that's Congressman Ted Lieu from the 33rd California District, Democrat. He's saying a lot of these machines were easily hacked. But when President Trump said that, everybody on CNN called him a liar and a conspiracy theorist. See, I just get so confused. I mean, how does it work? We know that the Democrats are pathological liars, but then in those rare moments where they stumble on to the truth, and that happens too with news media, every now and then they report something legitimate. How do we capture that? It was hard to find this video, by the way. It's getting harder and harder to find these videos.
Voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43%.
Ted Lieu said it was possible to switch votes in a voting machine once it was hacked into. Well, wait a minute. That's what I was saying. That's what maybe you were saying. That's what thousands, if not millions of people were saying. And the response from the voting machine companies was, you better shut up or we will sue you into the Stone Age.
of American voters used voting machines that
were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine.
right? Which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
Wait a minute. I want to do that again because I remember the young woman from Michigan that they maligned and just turned into this evil figure. And she was one of the most courageous young women that came out after 2020, the election. And she said, you know, one of the voting companies' representatives was there and they wouldn't let us get near the machine, but then certain Democrats were allowed access to the machine and you can change votes in the machine. And wow, they just, holy moly, she lost job opportunities. She was hated in her community of liberal progressives.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
Researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines.
the biggest seller of voting machines is doing something that violates Cybersecurity 101, directing that you install remote access software, which would make a machine like that, you know, a magnet for fraudsters and hackers.
Wait a minute. Did he just say that you can get access online to the voting machines? Yeah. That's what the congressman said. The Democrat congressman said. And it's true. It's true. It's been demonstrated over and over and over around the country, both before and after 2020. Yes, it has. Yet some voting machine companies, some lied to Congress and said, no, we don't have access. Can't do that.
Voting machines can be hacked quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it seem like all these states are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling them.
It is the individual voting machines.
Wait a minute. Did Senator Amy Klobuchar just say that it seems like all the states are doing things independently, which constitutionally, that's what they should be doing, actually. Constitutionally, the states run the elections. But Central Command can't allow that. So there's 3 companies, pretty much 3 companies, that control every voting machine in the United States. I think it's not quite a monopoly, but yeah, it's a monopoly.
That pose some of the greatest risks. There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right? Which are vulnerable to being hacked.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes.
43% of American voters use voting machines that researchers have found have serious security flaws, including backdoors.
We know how vulnerable now our systems were. I know the hackathon that took place last year where virtually every machine was broken into.
That was in 2017, by the way. This comment was from 2018. In 2017, he's referring to the hackathon, which the video was banned and no one in the major news media played it because they were all afraid they'd get sued or they wouldn't be invited to a cocktail party or something at Mark Warner's house or another person's house or something, right? But the hackathon he's referring to, they several politicians invited a bunch of hackers to go after all the different machines that were being used in 2016 and 2017 and that were planned for the upcoming midterms in 2018. And there were hackers that could get into the machines in less than 5 minutes. In some cases, they took over the administration feature and they changed the whole dynamic of the machine. Like who gets how many votes, what's the proportion of votes, and who's getting the votes. Oh, you didn't see that on NPR. Well, you need to call NPR and ask them to show you that.
Fairly quickly.
I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is the Vice President of the United States 4 years ago saying she brought in hackers to Washington to see if you can hack the voting machine. So 4 years ago, hold on, let me use some Common Core math here. 2022 minus 4, that's 2018. So wait a minute, 2 years before the 2020 stolen election, all these Democrats were aware that you could possibly use the voting machines to steal an election? That's not even including ballot harvesting, dead people's votes, duplicate ballots. That's pretty impressive.
Machines, those that are being used in many states.
Aging systems also frequently rely on unsupported software like Windows XP in 2000, which may not receive regular security patches and are thus more vulnerable to the latest methods of cyber attack.
In a close presidential election,
Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is Representative Ted Liar. I mean, Lou, I'm sorry. I need new glasses. I thought it said Ted Liar. I believe that it said Ted Liar because he lies all the time, but his real name is Ted Lieu, L-I-E-U. I thought it said L-I-A-R. Please forgive me. It was an honest mistake. Yes, he lies, but that is not his name. He is a Democrat, and he also, for a rare moment, spoke the truth.
just need to have one swing state, or maybe one or two, or state, or
Attack.
in a close presidential election, they just need to have one swing state, or maybe one or two.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Let me just do that again, because it is Representative Ted Lieu, the iconic Democrat congressman from Beverly Hills, California. And who wouldn't listen to that, right? So again, when the Democrats say it or do it or reference it, not only does it get scrubbed from the internet, they're not attacked or accused or maligned.
Latest methods of cyber attack.
In a close presidential election.
So in a close presidential election, like 2020, all you need is one or two states. You don't even need one or two states. You could have one or two big cities or regions in one or two states, and you can flip those states. Well, what about if 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 were flipped, as demonstrated in the movie 2000 Mules, or as demonstrated by the Epoch Times? Well, shut up. That's none of your business. Just obey Joe Biden and put your mask on, for goodness sake.
They just need to have one swing state, or maybe one or two, or maybe just a few counties in one swing state.
I'm very concerned that you could have a hack that finally went through.
What? Wait a minute. What? Are all those people conspiracy theorists? I don't know. Again, if you're just tuning in, it is my rebuttal. I'm using the words of Democrats, which are often rewritten or erased by the news media and the Democrat Party because some of the stuff they say is so outlandish. But in this rare moment, Democrat after Democrat after Democrat spoke the truth. So obviously, if you're just tuning into this, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on here? All these Democrats were speaking the MAGA language. I like that. The language of MAGA. So let's jump into it again, shall we? All right, let's pay attention to this. This is the attorney, one of Trump's lawyers, who very smartly also played a bunch of Democrats. Listen carefully. So what are the Democrats allowed to do that you and I are not allowed to do? Democrats can question anything they want. Democrats can accuse anybody of anything. Once again, Democrats can question any election, any methodology. Democrats can question or attack voting machine companies. They can question mail-in ballots. Thank you, Jimmy Carter, for doing that. Jimmy Carter said back in the 70s on the commission, and then he repeated it in the 80s, and he did it like 5 years ago. Mail-in ballots are the easiest way to rig an election. That's a quote from President Jimmy Carter, who I believe used to be the worst Democrat president in history, the worst president in history, but Joe Biden beat him in that. I mean, Joe Biden is beating everybody and everything. All right, let's give this a listen.
But Democratic Party candidates for public elective office are perfectly entitled to claim the election was stolen, or that the winner is illegitimate, or to make any other outrageous claim they can. It is their absolute right to do so. And it is their absolute right to do so irrespective of whether there's any evidence to support the claim, Democratic candidates can claim that an election was stolen because of Russian collusion or without any explanation at all. And that is perfectly okay and is in no way incitement to an insurrection. And somehow, when Democratic candidates publicly decry an election as stolen or illegitimate, it's never a big lie.
So take a moment, please. Please take a moment and think about the words that drooled out of Joe Biden's mouth last night. I mean, this guy, every time he speaks to America, he's trying to start a civil war, a race war, a hate war. And again, Joe Biden is always starting off with, we need to get together. We're the United States. We need to work together, people. It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. But I got to tell you, those damn Republicans, those MAGA Republicans, they're evil and they're undermining democracy. But we need to work together. We need to look at our neighbor and make sure that if they're a MAGA Republican, you hate them. See, this is what's so sad. And there are people that buy that crap. Let's continue my rebuttal made up of Democrat comments.
You've been doing it for years.
But can you imagine telling your supporters that the only way you could possibly lose is if an American election was rigged and stolen from you?
You mean like Hillary said? Okay.
And ask yourself whether you've ever seen anyone at any level of government make the same claim about their own election.
Well, I haven't seen it on any level of government in the bought and paid for and lazy and corrupt news media. But if you just do some research and use a search engine other than Google, you will notice how full of crap the Democrats are and have been. Maybe the last 50 years. But the last 3 to 6 years are what we're looking at now.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it.
What? A sitting U.S. senator? Boy, is he full of crap, too. I feel so bad for you folks in Ohio. Senator Sherrod Brown. That's got to be a bummer. If Stacey Abrams doesn't win, it was stolen. So, I didn't think you're allowed to, but anyway.
It's clear. I say that publicly, it's clear.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
Ask Bernie Sanders about that. Because she, and you have to read the emails, they railroaded Bernie Sanders. But enough about the Democrats.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
What? Wait a minute. It's 2019. You're almost 2 years into President Donald Trump's very successful first term. And you're calling him illegitimate. What are you doing? You're a former Secretary of State. You're a former senator. What are you doing? Are you trying to... I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to incite violence, aren't you?
He knows. He knows that...
He knows. He knows. And here's my daughter to back me up.
There were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did.
Votes remain to be counted. There are voices that were waiting to be heard.
And I will not concede.
Did she just say she would not concede? Talk about undermining democracy. Stacey. Why, Stacey? Why?
Coming from, and I respect the issues that you're...
By the way, Jake Lapper, or Lapdog, or Tapper, or whatever, he's losing one of his primetime spots after the election. They're just moving him back to his regular spot. On CNN, I just read that, just as an aside there. I don't think it's a demotion. I think it's a promotion like they gave to Don Lemon.
You're not answering the question. Do you think it was... You're not using the word legitimate.
There are still legitimate concerns over the integrity of our elections and of ensuring the principle of one person, one vote.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail.
What? Hold on a second. Hold on just a second there, Bernie Sanders. So this independent from Vermont in 2005. Now, is what he is doing here. See, I think he has a legitimate concern. I think more than once Bernie has stumbled onto the truth. I think the man has a legitimate concern. Even this has been going on for years. Look, the election rigging and cheating has been going on for years. And if they don't tap down the American people now and get us all to shut up, they're going to lose control because people are on to all of them. Anyway, this is 2005 for people listening on the podcast. Bernie Sanders was, I guess you'd call him ginning up violence, right? Is that what you'd call this?
Principle of one person, one vote.
I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote.
But constantly shifting vote tallies in Ohio and malfunctioning electronic machines, which may not have paper receipts, have led to additional loss of confidence by the public.
2005. That was Nancy Pelosi. Now take a moment. Again, if you're a liberal, this is going to be tough. Give it a shot. Try to be objective. Pretend all these Democrat comments that you just heard, most of them still in office, if all these Democrat comments were printed out on a sheet without who authored the comments, what would you think? You would think they were a bunch of treasonous, MAGA, hateful election deniers, wouldn't you? This is a great example of how uninformed voters have become. Sometimes they want to be uninformed, it's intentional, and sometimes they're just not bright enough to figure it out. Most of the people that are not bright enough to figure things out end up in corporate media.
This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so.
House Manager Castro no longer has to try to imagine it, thanks to the distinguished senator and others. It didn't have to be this way. The Democrats promised unity. They promised to deliver the very COVID relief in the form of $2,000 stimulus checks that President Trump called for. They should have listened to their own words of the past. I leave you with the wise words of Congressman Jerry Nadler.
Oh, this is going to be good. Now, you may not recognize Jerry. This is before he started working out at the gym with, was it Paul Ryan? Yeah. Before Jerry and Paul Ryan started working out. The Rhino Paul. Anyway, we'll leave you with this.
The effect of impeachment is to overturn the popular will of the voters. We must not overturn an election and remove a president from office, except to defend our system of government or our constitutional liberties against a dire threat. And we must not do so without an overwhelming consensus of the American people. There must never be a narrowly voted impeachment or an impeachment supported by one of our major political parties and opposed by the other. Such an impeachment will produce the divisiveness and bitterness in our politics for years to come, and will call into question the very legitimacy of our political institutions. The American people have heard the allegations against the president, and they overwhelmingly oppose impeaching him. They elected President Clinton. They still support him. We have no right to overturn the considered judgment of the American people. Mr. Speaker, the case against the president has not been made. There is far from sufficient evidence to support the allegations, and the allegations, even if proven true, do not rise to the level of impeachable offenses. Mr. Speaker, this is clearly a partisan railroad job. The same people who today tell us we must impeach the president for lying under oath, almost to a person voted last year to re-elect the speaker who had just admitted lying to Congress in an official proceeding. The American people are watching, and they will not forget. You may have the votes, you may have the muscle, but you do not have the legitimacy of a national consensus or of a constitutional imperative. This partisan coup d'etat will go down in infamy in the history of this nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
I yield back because it's lunch break. So there it is. That's it. Sort of short and sweet. That's my rebuttal. That's the first segment of today's Ken Matthews Report. Again, thank you, subscribers. Please tell your friends, because I can tell you now, a couple platforms, I'm banned from Facebook and I'm banned from LinkedIn. There's a couple platforms that have already tried to keep me from advertising my show on subscribestar.com. And I just wanted to mention that. I know it's nothing new to many, to thousands and thousands of people online, but it is kind of new to me. I mean, getting banned and everything, but then just to go in and advertise something like where you can find my show. And even that was banned. And I think it's because they attach my brand to my, my phone number or an old email or something. So even if I go on and say, look, I just want to advertise on your platform, with a little graphic that says, listen to Ken Matthews, go to kenmatthewsmedia.com, subscribe today, only $10 a month, whatever. They won't even let that occur. That should worry all of us, but this is what many of us are up against as we tell the truth. And those are the only things in common with the censorship. The censorship that I've experienced and that many of my friends have experienced, whether it's Laura Loomer or Mike Jaco, personal friends, or just people that I follow and have not yet interviewed or met, people like Naomi Wolf and some of the many doctors in the vaccine safety movement, etc. They all get banned and targeted and censored every day. So far I'm blessed because I'm on a platform that respects free speech. Subscribestar.com/Ken Matthews. So I'm asking you, if you are one of my former 13 regular listeners from any of my radio stations, to start at kenmatthewsmedia.com, check it out, see what you think, and then you get reports every day, 7 days a week, like this one. Again, this one was this whole thing revolved around using the voice and comments of Democrats to expose what an asshat Joe Biden was last night. But usually, like in our upcoming segment today, we do headlines, we do analysis, and I always try to give you great sources, not just to back up my analysis, but for you to continue your search for the truth, because I know that's what we're targeting here, truth seekers and patriots. But I did want to let you know, and I was torn, because I was talking to a tech guy yesterday, and I was torn, and he said, you should go on and you should tell your audience what's happening, that as you try to market your show in the most non-offensive way, they still will ban you, because it's not vulgarity, it's not violence, it's not all that crap, community standards, and you violated this and that. It's real simple. Tell the truth, become a target. That's 2022. We all know it. Every congressman that tells the truth, and there are some, every senator that tells the truth, every business person that tells the truth, doctors, nurses, radio people, television people, tell the truth, become a target. So this crap about, and I'll show you maybe in the next segment what they sent me. The violation of community standards. And then those of us that have never violated a community standard in our life, and other than speeding, we don't really break the law either, we're wondering what the hell's going on. And then it all gets back to, when you read the fine print, like YouTube just put out a new thing. I'm very disappointed with Twitter, and I'll tell you in a moment why. If you read the fine print of these platforms, it reads like Soviet Russia or Communist China when you read the fine print. And there's something in there now about every truth that is out there. So if you question the election or you mention voting machines, we'll consider that misinformation. That will not be tolerated. The same with the vaccine. The same with January 6th. The same with certain memes. There are platforms that will allow really funny Donald Trump memes, and some of the Donald Trump memes are hysterical when they're making fun of Donald Trump. But they won't allow the others. And it's all in the fine print. This has been the hardest message to get through to people, because the typical person, they're on Facebook or they're on Twitter or they're on whatever platform to talk about, where they're going on vacation or their fiance or the new shoes they bought or look at the Phillies in the World Series. So they don't have any concept of the minute you stumble onto something that is prohibited. I like to call it grown-up talk. The minute you get into adult content, so the minute mom stops talking about, oh, here's the cupcakes we made for the Halloween party, and she says, hey, are you going to get the vaccine for Timmy? Is he 10 now? The minute that conversation starts, you're out of there. And that should scare the hell out of Americans. So KenMatthewsMedia.com. Give it a view. It would mean the world to me if you came on as a subscriber. We're pursuing the truth. We're being honest, candid. We have no commercials. I mean, it's weird because I say now I have no sponsors, but in a way that's kind of a good thing because I'm not held to anybody. I don't work for anyone except you and me. That's how it works. That's how subscription works. And I have to say, there's a whole bunch of people online that are extremely successful doing it, much more than I am because I just got started. But there is something to be said for connecting with people that want to learn the truth. They want to learn the truth. They want to get an analysis or content that no one else has the guts to talk about. And I can say unequivocally, at this point in history, you're only going to find that content online. So go online, find people you can trust, find sources you can trust. I talk about them all the time on my shows and on my reports. And it would be great. Build a little panel. Include me in it. But Epic Times is great. Revolver.com. Again, there's a whole bunch of people out there that are doing great work online. Dinesh D'Souza, Laura Logan. And this is the new real information because corporate media killed the truth. That's why I'm going to post this in a variety of places today, including my subscription, but I want to post this on things where if people are new to me or new to what I'm doing or looking for me because I vanished from the radio station they were on 3 months, I was on 3 months ago, they have a chance to figure it out. And I even have to wonder just this last 3 or 4 minutes of dialogue, or excuse me, monologue, if that's going to get me banned. So until you've been banned, and Laura Loomer, by the way, is the most banned person on earth. Did you know that? The most banned woman, excuse me. And women are people, but she's the most banned woman. She's the expert on it. In fact, we're going to have her on, hopefully in the next few weeks. But until you've experienced that, you're banned from here, you're banned from here, you're banned from here. Well, all I want to do is advertise where I am now. No, you can't do that. Well, why not? Because the closer you get to the truth, the more pissed off people get. Welcome to America. So I hope you enjoyed all those Democrat comments, and you can use those Democrat comments that I shared with you, gathered from a variety of sources, and you could make your own determination. Was Joe Biden full of crap last night, as he usually is? Of course. But I want you to make that determination on your own. All right, we'll be right back with segment 2 today. Thank you.